Justice learners. Welcome to the Unit 3 overview for our class. I am going to take us over to Blackboard in a moment, but I also want to say, now that we are into the third unit, right, which is week 5, yep, week 5. So we're getting into being a third of the way done with the semester, right? It's a 15-week semester. So, this is a time when things should be coalescing in your brain, when you might actually, have a lot of questions, but things are starting to make sense. I know this class is a very challenging class because we are learning how and why the criminal justice system is not actually a source of protection and safety, but rather a source of violence and harm. It's really hard because we're at the John Jay College of Criminal Justice, right? And that's why I'm teaching this. If we were a pre-med school, we would be learning about how all these inequalities are built into the healthcare system. But because we're at the John Jay College of Criminal Justice, we want to critique what we are committed to make it better, maybe tear it down, build something in its place, right? We have to hold systems accountable because we are the systems. These are systems that have a lot of power, institutions that have a lot of power in our lives, particularly the lives of Black people and Latinx people, undocumented people, LGBTQ people of color, sex workers, lots and lots of different groups who are very impacted by our criminal justice system and very negatively impacted by being systems involved. So thank you for working through these emotions. It's very emotional to learn in a course like ours compared to like a statistics course. You might also have some emotions about your statistics course, but it's a little bit different. You're not going to argue with your math professor that 2 times 2 is 4. That's just accepted. But in a class like ours, even when presented with decades of research and data, it's really hard when that research and data is challenging our worldview, is challenging our common sense understanding of the world. Our common sense understanding of the social world is built on status quo, stereotypes, norms. What you're learning in this class and in lots of your other classes is that those norms and stereotypes, right, are put in place to maintain systems of social control. So the criminal justice system is no different. And I want you to know this because if you're going to become a detective, if you're going to become a police officer, if you're a lawyer or a judge, you need to have an understanding of how these inequalities are built into the system that you're going into. Right? I love higher education. I'm teaching college. I think the system of higher education is extremely exploitative and problematic. But I'm here because I want it to be better. So it's really common to have feelings like disbelief or even apathy, hopelessness, anger, sadness, and then hopefully as you continue to learn, for example, what organizations, like the one that you're studying this semester, what these organizations are doing can, as well as all the research being done, like having clarity about how the social world is working often brings a sense of comfort, oftentimes also validation if you're someone who has experienced some of these issues. It gives us hope for the future, instills a sense of compassion. And you might have all those feelings in one day after one reading, and that's normal. So give yourself, that time to let your brain digest what you're reading, sit with those emotions, sit with the discomfort, ask yourself why it makes you uncomfortable, right? And just really think about how and why, right, those feelings are sitting with you, and what it is that our authors and our scholars and our activists are trying to teach us. So I'm going to take us over to unit number 3. Unit number 3 is a little bit lighter. The first 4 weeks of the semester have been very intense between the COVID, COVID policy response that John Jay and CUNY are implementing, and then the impact of Tropical Storm Ida. I understand how intense this is. Many of you are still just sticking right along and turning things in and seem to be able to complete the assignments, so I appreciate that very much. I'm in conversation with some of you to help ensure your success in the class, and if you're someone who feels like they're slipping behind or getting confused or just overwhelmed, reach out to me and we'll work together to create a plan to make sure that this class is doable for you and that you can be successful in Gen 205. Okay, let's go take a look at Blackboard together. Here we are, the Gender and Justice homepage. Because we are asynchronous, everything is here on the homepage. I try to make this as easy as possible. All you have to do is scroll. So if you continue scrolling, all the information here for the class in general, and then you get to our units. And unit number 3 takes us from September 20th through October 1st. Okay? So we're going to continue to learn about abolitionism, right? Just like anti-slavery activists in the U.S. call themselves abolitionists because they wanted to abolish slavery so many years ago. Abolitionists today, right, they use this term abolition because they want to abolish the new form of racialized social control, the criminal justice system. It's what legal scholar Michelle Alexander calls the new Jim Crow. She wrote a book called The New Jim Crow about mass incarceration as the latest iteration of racialized social control. So, in the United States we had slavery, and then we had Jim Crow laws, which were explicit laws that said Black people cannot do X. These areas, neighborhood schools, are for white people, and these are for Black people. So it was actually written in the law. Race was written in the law. Those became unconstitutional. Blatant race was written out of, right, laws and policies. And then what we have today, what is called the new Jim Crow, reflects the racism that we see today and the sexism that we see today. That is laws that are seemingly race neutral. They don't say Black people can't drink out of this water fountain. But in how they are implemented and used and the consequences of these laws, we see how they are indeed racialized, gendered, anti-immigrant, homophobic, heterosexist. So abolitionists today want to abolish, right, these new forms of racialized social control. This is really hard to understand because we are taught to believe that policing is there to protect us. So when gender justice advocates conclude that we must dismantle and defund criminal justice institutions, our brains are like, what? Like, I don't even understand how that would work. And that is a very common response. Luckily, you're in this class, so you're reading about what that would look like, how it would happen. And a dismantling, a defunding, a decarceration, it's taking away one thing and replacing it with something more holistic, less violent, hopefully not violent at all, and actually dealing with accountability, dealing with violence in our communities, right? We know from decades of data, for example, that having laws against sexual assault hasn't stopped sexual assault from happening, right? The threat of being arrested or going into jail isn't enough to stop people from doing crimes. So this video will be right here, and then you have your additional tasks like normal. I do want to point out that if you want to earn 2 points of extra credit, and I'm doing this 3 times, so it's potentially 6 points of extra credit through the semester. If you want to earn 2 points of extra credit, I am hosting our first optional, totally optional, Zoom viewing of a documentary. Again, that's why you get extra credit, because it's totally optional. So I'm going to screen the documentary, Murder to Mercy, the Cyntoia Brown story. I will screen it via Zoom so that we can all watch it together, so that if you don't have Netflix, that's okay. You can watch it with me, and if you stay, you watch the whole documentary, we'll talk about it briefly at the end, then you'll get those 2 points of extra credit. If you're someone who really wants those 2 points of extra credit, but you know you can't make it on Monday the 20th from 1 to 3, even if you come late, like, 1:30, a little after 1:30 because you have class, that's totally fine. That's, again, totally acceptable. But if you would rather watch it on your own because you have Netflix, you can contact me, and I'll let you know what you need to do in order to make up the discussion time, right? So if you come on Monday the 20th, watch the documentary, engage in discussion with me and your peers, you get 2 points extra credit. If you're interested in doing this and you can't make it on Monday the 20th, reach out to me. You have to reach out to me. Email me or text me, and I will send you information about the documentary. But more importantly, I'll send you a worksheet to complete that will basically take the place of of being there and having a conversation with us, right? And so in that way, people who can't make it on Monday the 20th can still earn those 2 points of extra credit by October 1st. Task 2, like usual, is going to take you to the discussion board, right? So you will click to launch, go to the discussion board, And a unit number 3 thread will show up. I haven't made it visible yet, but you'll click on that unit number 3 thread where you will continue to get to know your organization. So I'm going to ask you different questions, new questions about your organization. You will answer those questions. You'll make sure that you're not repeating answers that your peers in your group have already given as you continue to explore the organization that you've been assigned, like the Sex Workers Outreach Project Behind Bars, Black and Pink, Hollaback. Many of these organizations, if you do come and watch the documentary, online, attend online, the documentary viewing, it may really help you understand what it is that your organizations are doing or why they exist. So I think of ones like SWAP, Black and Pink, Audre Lorde and Sylvia Rivera Law Project, although those are focused on LGBTQ people of color. This is an issue, Centoya Brown doesn't identify as queer or trans, so far as I know, but as a Black youth, a Black teenager caught up in the criminal justice system, it's very relevant to what a lot of your organizations are doing. Girls for Gender Equity, this would be really relevant for you as well. The heart of the unit is the Read, Watch, Hear task. So what I'm asking you to read are a couple of academic pieces. So this first piece is a bit of a long read. It's from a book called Girlhood and the Politics of Place. It's a PDF, and it's called Ain't No Justice, It's Just Us. And it's about girls organizing against sexual and carceral violence. So actual youth, girls, young girls, teenage girls, organizing, engaging in activism, engaging in fierce advocacy for justice against both sexual violence and carceral violence. Remember, carceral is a reference to how we incarcerate, right? So it's a reference to the criminal justice system. They, in this particular reading, talk about different organizations, including perhaps some of the organizations that you're studying. And so I want you to really think about, as you're reading it, why she separates out sexual violence from carceral violence as two different types of violences that sometimes intersect in the lives of girls of color. Then I'm asking you to read three very short chapters in the book, We Do This Till We Free Us, Abolitionist Organizing and Transforming Justice. This is the book, you've read a previous excerpt, this is the book where you really get answers, right? Like, well, if we abolish, what do we do? Well, you transform what justice means. And so there's three short chapters here. One is a piece called The System Isn't Broken, as in the criminal justice system isn't broken, it's working exactly as it was meant to. And that's really hard for us to hear, because what it means is that the criminal justice system is working as a racialized, sexist system of social control. So there's this piece with some interviews. And then there's this short piece called Yes, We Literally Mean Abolishing the Police, that ran in the New York Times in June 2020 during that great awakening summer. And then a piece from 2018 called A Jailbreak of the Imagination, Seeing Prisons for What They Are and Demanding Transformation. And it's that transformation, that visionary feminism, that yes, we're abolishing, but we're transforming and rebuilding and creating something new, better, less violent, hopefully not violent, in its place. And then a couple other short pieces, one about the person who will actually be the focus of the documentary. Again, from the book, so it's a short excerpt from that book. And then an excerpt from a pop feminist, come on, Blackboard, a pop feminist magazine called Bitch Magazine. And so this is called Love No Limit. We should think about prison abolition as a love story. So what does that mean, right? Not just transformation, but if we abolish something that is so violent, it's really a love story. It's love back to the communities that are harmed. You can see this actually references one of the pieces that I'm asking you to read earlier in the unit. Finally, two things. One, a longer academic piece, an actual academic journal article from an academic journal called Souls, a critical journal of Black politics, culture, and society. And this PDF, which again is a full academic research article, is called Policing Black Women's and Black Girls' Bodies in the Carceral United States. See that carceral word again, right? Carceral, incarceration, being incarcerated. So it's a reference to living in a society, the United States, that is heavily carceral. We imprison people at a ridiculously high rate, very out of step with countries that we like to compare ourselves to. We incarcerate as an answer to social problems like poverty, drug use, engaging in survival sex work, right? So we're talking about not necessarily crime, right, but identity, individuals, and survival. So this piece, Policing Black Women's and Black Girls' Bodies in the Carceral United States, will really bring together everything that you have learned in this unit and really all semesters so far. So it is long. Give yourself time to read it. If you have a peer in the class that you're friendly with, maybe split it up and then tell each other what's really important about each section. You're going to get a lot of examples, a lot of history, herstory, theirstory of the really horrific impacts of policing Black women and Black girls in the United States. And again, it's only about 9 pages long, but I say it's a long read because it's really intense. I mean, it's 13 pages if you count like the back end and front end stuff, which you don't actually read. But you know, it's academic reading is not like reading for fun. It takes more energy. Then I'm asking you to just choose 2 of 8 short videos that were created by NYU. And so there's 8 videos about women out of prison, their stories, right? So there's videos here, women out of prison. You can focus on causes of incarceration, right? And these are pretty short, you know, usually I think 5 to 10 minutes is the longest one. You can learn about, you know, issues with housing, education, employment, reuniting family, dealing with foster care after exiting, right, the prison system. So for unit number 3, it's a little bit shorter, but it is going to require some brain power, right? So a lot of these reads will go very quickly, like the short chapters here, but they're really challenging your worldview, most likely, and challenging our common sense assumptions of how the criminal justice system works and how the social world works. Again, that extra credit option listed here. And then you'll complete your quick facts check-in. You can go back and fix wrong answers. You should go back and fix wrong answers, right? Take advantage of these multiple attempts. So that is it for unit number 3. I'm also going to do a video, watch out for it, that will explain further, now that we're into week 5 of the semester, that's going to explain further how your studying of your organization is going to carry through all semester. Why you're focusing so intensely on studying this organization and really spending a lot of time on it, because, you know, I'm not providing a lot of additional assignments. You know, you have your quick facts check-in each time, your discussion board post each time, and then occasionally some additional analysis. But really, right, there's no long-form writing, there's no long-form journaling, so you're putting a lot of your brain power and energy into learning about your organization and understanding your organization from the perspective of our readings. So, if you have any questions, please reach out. If you're feeling behind or overwhelmed, just, you know, I am very happy to work with you to ensure your success in our class. So, thank you for watching.